And so guys, I'm over the next 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 40 odd minutes. I'm going to take you guys through, what I have experienced having while I have been building digital businesses, especially in a very hardcore brick and mortar environment or setup or the culture, plus also some of my understanding and learning which I have gained over the period of last 14 to 15 years since my digital journey started, right? So my initiation into digital businesses started in 2004 when I started to set up the corporate strategy division for Reliance Entertainment. At that point in time, very new and young, and we went on to set up Zapak, the first gaming platform in the country, right? So one of the first thing, and during this whole thing, when I'm talking, while yes, the decorum requires you to, Andy, I'm open to, if there is any question coming in, to take that up. I leave it to you.
It's your show, so please run it the way you feel.
Right.
So please ask questions whenever you want to. Just kind of unmute your mic and ask.
I don't know where it is. Okay. So this is the first thing which we encounter: reality versus hype. Whenever, especially, I'm not very sure, but I believe that most of you are aspiring to get into the digital space or upskill yourself, and probably are working within the brick and mortar ecosystem in the corporate world. We all get swayed by hype. I recall Tarun in his session mentioning that, as Bill Gates says, change is overhyped in the short run, but underestimated in the long run, right? I mean, the gist of it is like that. Now, this is what happens when you see in between 2010 to 2013, when we saw the boom of e-commerce, 2010 to 2015, only stories were about valuation and the funding. And most of our environment where we are working gets swayed away with this hype which gets created around anything new emerging in the digital space, right? What we face at that point in time, if we are in that environment where we could get threatened, our businesses could get threatened, we face is, first is denial, second is very hurried approach towards doing something, right? And that's where, I mean, I would like to bring in what I faced during my ABFRL stint in the initial stages of setting up e-commerce. First of all, nobody believed apparel could be bought online, right? Now that's the mindset which we encounter. Well, the reality was youngsters were accepting it. Those of you who are here would have seen this even when the first ATM came into the country, when ICICI started pushing in their digital push, right? Nobody believed. But today, if you look at HDFC Bank alone, has a combined market cap of all POC banks put together. Now, that is what it achieved over the last 20 years by giving a push towards digital. And that's how we need to look at, how do I really equip myself to differentiate between what is hype and what is happening in reality. And one of my thumb rule is, if youngsters are adopting, then please look at what is happening and dive deeper. If you are a marketing guy and youngsters are looking, what is it and how are they getting influence to move to this particular shift? That's how I would put it, right? The other thing, how to measure if this is real or not. If we are focusing, the marketing talent should be understanding the fundamentals of digital marketing here, right? Which becomes key. How are these guys are acquiring consumers? What are these jargons which gets thrown at you? Probably you will encounter that through a consultant or an agency who would come and say digital marketing has SEO, SEM, SEO, SMM, all these kind of. It's always advisable to equip yourself before you get into those kind of scenarios, so that nobody takes you for a ride, right? This is very important, the second point of it. Let me start this particular slide with asking you, what do you guys think led to the decline of print? Is there a way, Andy, it can be interactive? Can people answer?
Absolutely, guys. I mean, please feel free to unmute yourself and engage, and make it make for a much more interesting conversation. Anyone? What do you think kill print is killing print in this time?
Okay. Am I audible, guys?
Yes, yes, you are.
Yeah. Okay. While everybody feels that, it is suddenly internet, all content, all news getting consumed from internet, and nobody wants to pay money there, and that is what led to the decline. But if you dive deeper, you would realize that since the advent of internet or consumer internet, starting from 95, 96 in US and India would be 99, 2002, classifieds revenue or classifieds as a business segment moved to internet. And that was the biggest contributor for any print company as far as their EBITDA was concerned. Right? Now, that is the difference, the way I would like to define digitization and digitalization. Right? When you really focus on digitalization, you try to get into the fundamentals of the disruption, what is coming your way. Right? Now, if you look at it, digitization in another way, digitization is a tick in the box approach. Digitalization is deep dive into fundamentals. Let me take you through how we went about doing that in ABFRL, right? We said, the main differentiator between an internet business and the brick and mortar business is the data, is the ability to track every consumer's action, convert that into 0-1, and convert that into insightable, actionable insights, right? This is what is the power of internet. Now, digitalization of your business would mean, how do I convert all consumer actions into 0-1, get that data, assimilate, digest, and bring out actionable insights, and then act on it and consume it on a daily, regular basis. Most of us who started their career pre-2000 or pre-1995 would have seen that, in their first 5 to 10 years, the data analysis was more or less postmortem, and your ability to act was delayed by at least 15 days. That's not how digital economy works. That's why digitalization would mean everything what you do, whether it is your supply chain, whether it is a manufacturing cycle, all these your focus ends up being, how do I convert that into data, enrich it, and get actionable insights. This is my, one second. This is my favorite topic while building any digital business. What do you want to put ahead, growth or profitability? And there's nothing new. And if you really look at it, digital gets hammered that they don't have any respect for profitability and they chase growth, right? But this has been true even in the brick and mortar businesses earlier, right? If anybody who recalls Big Bazaar's growth, Future Group's growth way back in 1990s and to early 2000, they were looking at setting up a retail store, looking at a break-even period, but at the same time raising funds and deploying all their stores across the country. Now convert that into digital. The store gets replicated by a consumer, and the consumer, you are just chasing him to acquire him on your platform and get him hooked onto your platform. So growth in the digital business must be prioritized over profitability. But at the same time, your proof of concept stage is where you prove that at unit economics level, you are able to generate profit. Once you prove, capital becomes a commodity for you. And that's when you start growing. At this particular phase, what is it that you would be looking at from if you are entitled or you have been assigned to look at digital business and how your business is? That's where the matrix becomes very important. Lifetime value, stickiness. If you want to build career in product segment, then your focus has to be, how do I ensure that my consumers stay on the platform and have a very frictionless interaction with your platform? Now, growth versus profitability is also from a, if there are any finance guys who are aspiring to build their career or transform into, digital opportunities or move into digital opportunities, the unit economics works very, very beautifully here. Somebody way back in 2014 shared this with me, why Ola, Uber gets such high valuation. Ola at that point in time was at a daily ride hailing of 1 million in India, if I'm not wrong. And they said, if it hits daily 10 million rides and makes 10 rupees a ride profit, the numbers are exponential. That is where growth needs to be chased against profitability in digital business. And this is a very, very tough thing to convince, especially if you're in a brick and mortar business where you're trying to build your digital businesses, right? Consumer versus product. At least, guys like me and Andy who are little on the older side, I would rather say not digital native. We have been tutored into product perfection, perfecting a product before going to market and focusing on the product. But the digital environment ends up, the successful companies are those who have defined consumer centricity as their core. Now, this would mean that, our ability to, again, here, capability building on the data side is extremely important, or looking at data and acting on it quite close to real time is the key differentiator, right? So now, Indian, and this applies not just for incumbents, it applies for digital businesses also. We have seen a lot of digital, the death is sudden in digital business. But the survivors or who have built great value are companies who put consumer at the center and did not shy away to pivot or add or leverage adjacencies or complementing businesses. If I were to go back and connect dots of Info Edge rising, right? Look at it. Naukri enables you to get a job. Jeevan Sathi enables you to get a spouse. 99 acres helps you to buy the house. You get a job, probably next year you are looking at getting married or buying a house. Why they missed the classifieds of automobile is a question which they only can answer. But that's how, and this, if you were to look at pure, have you ever seen ABC doing it? Pure headhunting companies, they don't do that. But the digital enables you to do that because you get so much of enriching data from the consumers, right? Of consumers.
Shiva's actually things like roti kapda literally, in a way, really building for basics of a consumer across their life stages, whether it's getting a job, getting married, buying a house. Literally, that's how life progresses. That's really interesting what it progresses.
I'm sure they would not have thought when they were building Jeevan Sathi or 99, they would not have thought. They thought that we have a tech which enables matching. Because again, what is the job classified? It matches demand supply, right? They would have said, okay, fine, we have built this engine, let's build this. But then if you really look at it, that's how Amazon stumbled upon acquiring IMDb, so that consumers who are buying their DVDs or their content, the DVDs or CDs from their website get a unbiased rating. And that enabled them to also enter, content, and now it's helping, right? Similarly, there are a lot of examples in the digital world.
Can I ask a small question? This is
Yeah,
Megha.
Yeah, sure.
See, I have been in both brick and mortar business and in digital business for
Great.
the products.
Great.
And or what I've seen is this: people do have some kind of a perception, like the people who have been in brick and mortar, when they want to convert themselves to a digital brand or a digital turn into a digital medium, they have a perception about that how will reviews affect them. As of now, what happens when they're in brick and mortar? If any customer is upset, they know how to change the scenario, do the ego massaging, or maybe give them a good service or gifts or anything. But it is within the walls. This is not getting expanded. The review is not getting expanded. That bad service is not getting expanded to the world.
Yeah.
But when you are in a digital world, it is like one review and it spoils your image.
Right.
Because it is written on a platform which is visible and which can be read by thousands and lakhs of people.
And it
So
is viral as well.
yeah, it's viral as well. So
Yeah.
that kind of a perception I have seen from a lot of my dealers. Like I used to work for Oppo Mobile before, where I've seen this kind of a reviews from the dealers itself, that this is the kind of a issue that they are facing and they don't want to get into digital. They're definitely digital is the future, so they would rather prefer doing a call center kind of a situation in lockdown, where people can call them up and they can home deliver the thing, or they can book the order on a website and they can home deliver it, but they don't want to go completely turn into digital.
Yeah.
So somewhere I feel that there are a lot of still there are a lot of pros and cons at both the platforms.
See, I
And
understand. I get your question, but it's a good thing that you have worked in offline brick and mortar businesses also. How many consumers? So this is a thumb rule. For every 100 unsatisfied consumers, only 2 come to you, right? If it is physical world, rest of the 98 people just walk away. Now, if you really look at it, this is a great opportunity that one guy responds. One guy gives you a negative feedback. If you respond, the other guys also know the brand or the company is responsive. So if you are used to selling on Amazon, then you will see that your trust subconsciously, when you read a review, if there is a bad review, but if there is a response from the brand, you end up reading that. And that is what you get from the digital medium. That is why people should not shy away from creating a digital platform, because at least you get first-hand feedback. In the offline world, so many times people don't even come and complain, right? It is easy to complain, just like it is easy to buy. That's how I would put it.
True. But then there's an issue. These things that digital is the future. It's already been proven in last 2 years, and it is definitely gonna be there in the next decade also. But there are still a lot of people who are they like to be in a small scale situation only. They don't have that kind of a monetary support or something. So they feel this thing that digital में जाके कोई फायदा नहीं है, because we are not gonna grow at that way. I'm like a person from a small town or a small village, and I'd rather be here because I don't have that much of expertise that I can reach to people all over India or all over world. So they are very happy in their brick and mortar. So that's the thing. That's a kind of a constraint that I tried breaking, but I was somewhere failing in that situation when I wanted them to change and make them convert into digital platform. Somewhere I failed. So that means somewhere I lacked in my motivation to convert them. So in this kind of a situation, how should I approach the people?
I think that's where it is, right? The data is available. It's a very transparent medium. If you launch and you see that there are for 100 products sold in a day, you get 10 complaints. That means there is something which you need to improve. At least it's transparently coming. It is not that consumers are running away. So it is always it is always better that it helps that you go back and say, at least we need to respond, we need to solve this problem. Problem is upfrontly visible. Yes, I agree, digital is not a cheap medium. It is an expensive medium when it comes to scaling beyond a point. But for your proof of concept or the wider market, what you get, it is one of the best medium available today.
Sorry, if I may add this stage, given that you were an ABFRL and you had a similar situation where the organization was largely brick and mortar and there was lots of resistance to move. So what was your approach at that point of time to get this attitude or mindset shift happening? Because you did this many years ago where probably this is still the question. Right?
So first thing was proving, I mean, I have always believed solve for revenue, rest of the things will get solved, right? So first thing was, I mean, I was told that if you get 5 orders a day, it's great. We did 50 orders a day in the second month, right? And this suddenly makes people stand up and sit and say, okay, consumers are buying, right? It is, I mean, I have to also give credit to ABFRL as a company as well, because, you know, they were very proactive. When they saw these numbers, they said, yeah, something is happening here, right? And brand is very, very important for them. So consumer complaints, logistics delays, all those will get solved. At the same time, look at it this way. If I were to get into the math of it, most of the brick and mortar businesses, their initial cost gets hidden in CapEx. And then there is a OpEx. If you break down that CapEx into your daily OpEx or a monthly OpEx, then more or less the cost equation remains the same between digital and offline. This is the biggest hurdle we will face when you want to transform a brick and mortar business into digital, telling that this is very expensive. We never used to incur this, right? So that's where I mean, I had done that math, also taken a lot of support from the finance team to tell me what is the exact cost, what you incur. If I were to break down all my costs. So cost people understand, revenue people appreciate, right? So any organization, if you are able to solve this equation and present it, I mean, there will always be resistance. I mean, it's not an easy job, but that's how I had solved it at ABFRL.
Would you say, Shiva, in the case of, let's say, mobiles, like talking about, would the solution be to take a few retailers and pilot a kind of minimum viable product and then demonstrate?
So I'll tell you, I forget the name, but there's a beautiful concept which is emerging in Bangalore. That's, I mean, that I would say can work for all retailers also, right? Now, to counter Swiggy and Zomato, who take upwards of 25% of commission for all food deliveries, right? Food orders. In Bangalore, there is all restaurants have come together and created an open platform where they charge a platform fee for usage, not a commission on the order. If a brand can create that for all its retailers and move, wouldn't that work? Hello?
So you're saying create a common platform where any Oppo retailer could actually come and use the service.
Yeah.
And if they see value, they'll continue to pay that monthly.
Right. I mean, that's one thought. That's how in Bangalore. I mean, this was tried for taxis also when Ola, Uber came in, but it's a little tricky because in restaurants, look at it. That's where if I were to look at digitization versus digitalization or hype versus reality, what did the restaurant guys do? They say we anyways used to do home delivery earlier, right? But it was only on the back of calling. Now we just need a platform where users can place order. I anyways have my delivery ecosystem. So for mobile, if the team sits together and says, how do I ensure all my physical brick and mortar retailers can get on the digital and may not have to shell out that kind of margin what Amazon or Flipkart wants and don't get disrupted, probably a solution might emerge. The problem is co-opting. Not all mobile retailers would like to co-opt. Cooperating at the same time competing is a concept which requires great amount of maturity, Andy. Right?
True.
So that's where the answer, somewhere in between that, the answer could lie.
I think so.
Thank you, Shiva. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. I think at least we made for a very interesting discussion. Really, really interesting problem to solve. Well, sure.
Yeah. Now I come to the. What is this? So I have faced this challenge. Let me take you guys through my experience when I first got into the operational role of running a internet company. I'm by qualification an engineer, but I have never coded a single line. Right? Tech is a black box for most of us. We get scared. My suggestion has always been start sitting in the tech meetings. You will realize that while it is a great differentiator, it is an enabler, right? So tech, we get scared. I'm very sure people, whether they would like to agree or not, people get scared. Just like in our school days, we would get scared with maths, right? So tech is not such a bad animal. Once you start attending daily Scrum meetings or Agile meetings of your tech and product teams, you will realize that it is a beautiful thing which converts whatever is your idea into a consumable platform, right? Here, because it is the differentiator, it is the pillar. Ability to understand what tech can do is very important, but be focused on the outcome rather than everyday changing tech stories. Technology is a moving target. Every day there will be new technology which will emerge. Don't get swayed away. At the end of the day, what the tech does to your consumers is very important. Which language is being used may not be so important. Because consumer is never worried about what technology you use at the back end. Consumer is only sticking or coming to your platform based on your user experience, what you are giving.
I think often also, Shiva, from what I've seen is people also mistake implementation of technology as digital transformation.
Yeah, so that is where the differentiator between digitization and digitalization, right? If you digitize your catalog, you have just done digitization. If you make it shoppable, if you make it more exciting, that is where you have digitalized it. If you are collecting all the clicks on your product detail page and then acting upon it, for example, in e-commerce, the funnel, the way we would look at is how many people visited the product detail page and how many bought, how many didn't buy. If there's a great amount of traffic to the product detail page, but the purchase is not happening, then there is some problem which lies. Either your inventory is not right, or your pricing is not right, or in apparel, sizes might be an issue, right? Or availability might be an issue. Color might be an issue. So that's how, I mean, Andy, to answer to you, as a talent, as a team, we are able to differentiate between digitization and digitalization and move towards digitalization, then this problem doesn't exist.
Fair point, there is.
Yeah. So here the other element on the tech is, don't do everything in-house. Don't try to bring in everything in-house. The ability to differentiate between what is core and what is critical. What is core but not critical? What is critical but not core? Based on that, these three parameters, based on these three bucketing, if you're able to work with the ecosystem then you have a beautiful platform emerging. Because some of these things, it is advisable not to do any in-house, not to focus there much. Because there is ecosystem has been built very nicely, beautifully outside. A lot of startups have emerged in solving some of the problems which we might face. So go there, build that. And that doesn't need tech knowledge. It needs consumer centricity. So on this note, more or less my basic thing which I thought I would share here is over. To summarize, I would say equip yourself with tools which enable you to see the reality. That's where hype versus reality. Digitization is organization wide. Hence, it doesn't matter which department you are in. You are going to be touched by digitalization. So embrace it. Growth, and that too hyper growth, is the only winning mantra in digital. Sacrifice profitability the moment you see unit economics is working. Be obsessed with consumers and befriend technology. Don't run away from your tech team. This I have seen with a lot of managers and Andy, lot of digital colleagues of mine who just sleep over a tech meeting, and they would say, we don't understand tech. You don't have to. You just befriend them. You will get that.
So before
Yeah.
we move, I think one of the things I think we love to know is that you've actually built businesses and taken businesses from brick and mortar to omni-channel in ABFRL. When
Yeah.
you came to Reliance, you set up corporate chat, you set up Zapak, where
Yeah.
online at that point of time was such a small, very, very nascent concept. Now at each of these stages, you obviously, this was a time when, let's say, digital capabilities, technology, etc., was still at a very nascent stage in this country, especially capability.
Right.
Because it was really the starting of the whole digital revolution that India was just starting to see.
Right.
I think one of the things we'd love to understand is, how did you build capabilities in a time for yourself and your team when really resources were scarce? What was your approach then?
Right. So I'll be very candid, open. I'll take you guys through my journey. I mean, whatever it is worth, right? So when in 2005, 2006, when we started that journey, there was nothing like what we have today in terms of ability to upskill or ability to talk to somebody, speak to at least people who have had a decade or a 5-year or half a decade or decade plus kind of experience in building it. So it was more of hands-on kind of learning. While one of the things, it's like when I really look back and say, what would have been, would my learning curve have been shorter if I had most of these kind of materials or these kind of courses, right? And Andy, I really envy people who have that ability right now or access to these kind of things right now, right? So for me, when I went, it was more of research from a third party perspective, from a again internet perspective, how US emerged, how China emerged. When I started my journey at the corporate strategy to set up Zapak, at that time we were looking east, and we looked at the Chinese model, Chinese companies emerging, how they built, right? And that was fairly very easy. For if I were to tell now, that was the easiest part, because I didn't have skin in the game, because I was only doing a corporate strategy work, right? When I moved to operationally run Big Adda, that is where it was a very tough time, because suddenly you don't know engineering. The jargons are thrown at you. You don't know why product development takes so much of time. What are the complications? Why is it that you say change this button, but it will take, the team would come back and say it's a 15-day or a 30-day cycle, right? And that is when I started spending time in terms of looking at what is it that each team has to do. It is not as simple as change the color of the room, right? There is the moving parts. There are multiple moving parts, and all of them go together, go hand in hand.
Resort.
Yeah, if you can mute. Yeah, right. Now to understand these moving parts, you end up spending a lot of time if it is you yourself learning. If at that point in time I had access to materials which would say, product, whatever is product role is like an architect's role. He designs it, but build is by tech. And when the build happens, there is a lot of to and fro because every use cases needs to be taken care of. The analogy which I could give is if you're placing a table in a room, physical table, and if you day after tomorrow realize that it is obstructing, it is very simple. You call somebody and pick the table and move it. In the digital world, it is not as simple as that. Because what happens when you move to the other elements which are dependent on the table, the flooring, the wall on which it is kept, all these get impacted, and the impact of that is across. It could go across the platform. Now that is the complication. That kind of complication you learn hands-on when you get into the get in on the job, right? But at the same time, if you really look at, if you had a ready material which would say, you look at the product changes only with data, or you look at when a certain instance or certain event occurs, that would have helped me rather than going berserk and asking everybody to change everything, right? That was at the beginner stage. Now, when I moved into ABFRL, the biggest challenge was to convince, as I think Megha, I'm sorry if my name, as she asked, right? Megha, right? I mean,
Yes.
There, yeah,
Megha.
there in ABFRL, the biggest thing is to enable or equip yourself so that your board, you are able to navigate, or you're able to convince the board in this direction. That is the biggest challenge, which I think now, a decade down the line, is not a challenge anymore, because most of the people who have experienced digital as consumers are now sitting on decision-making positions, right? At that point in time, probably people who would sit on the board or who would enable this decision were not themselves great consumers of digital platforms. So one of the biggest challenge which I faced in ABFRL was at the decision-making level. How do I make them? How do I convince them? Right? Always remember, the youngsters are the easiest to adopt, are the easiest to shift, because they are consuming it. Then the second step of the challenge or the learning has been ability to attract talent and also accept that the talent is not going to spend more than, say, 18 or 24 months with you. You still have to invest behind that, right? That is another learning which I had to go through, and which you have to make your organization also realize that probably you have to pay top dollars to attract good talent, and also accept that within 2 years or 36 months, he will get bored, or he will be hired at an exorbitant price. So these are some of my learnings, Andy. In specific, if you have anything, please ask.
Guys, I know it's a little late, but would love to get some questions from participants. Anybody with any question for Shiva? I think the experience is really, really exciting, and I'm sure if any questions you have, we'll be able to give you a really good answer. So,
Hi, Andy. Hi,
Hi.
Shiva. This is Praveen Pahuja.
Hi, Praveen. Go ahead, Praveen.
Okay, yeah. So my question is that is digital leading to the death of brick and mortar stores, or is it creating an opportunity for them?
No, I think both can very, very easily coexist. It
Right.
depends on what role. So if the definition of store is the store has to give me the maximum amount of revenue, probably that may not. But will store be a great experience zone? Yes. Store will continue to grow. They might continue to grow. But how do you ensure that they grow? So let me take you through what we attempted in ABFRL from an omni-channel perspective. So some of the things which we did there was, again, it goes back to my whole thing on slide 4 and slide 3, which is consumer versus product, and slide 2, digitization versus digitalization, right? We said, one of the biggest challenge, if you are from retail background, you would realize that, non-availability of inventory based on the catchment area. In the online space, because warehouse is you ship through warehouse, or you can create large warehouses and you can ship from across the country. In the retail, the drop rate because of non-availability of merchandise goes as high as 25%. The unfortunate part is it is never recorded, so you don't know. Your store guy might say it is 4%, 5%, but in reality, we did this study wherein we saw people coming, walking in, checking out, and then walking out, and then you ask them, no, I didn't like anything. And that's a very general trend, right? If you were able to create an ecosystem which captures this data and converts that and gives you that this is my demography. For example, in Indiranagar, the 100 feet road in Bangalore, everybody stocks for an age group of 25 to 35. The catchment area of Indiranagar has a population which average age is 35 plus. So there is a mismatch. But yes, 100 feet road is I'm giving an example of Bangalore because that's very familiar. You can take it in, take the example of Linking Road also. It may not be very different, but these are high streets. Now, how do I create? How do I convert? How do I make my retail store so relevant to my catchment area? If that is done, I don't think the pleasure of buying from a physical store can be replaced by online, especially in some of the categories, right? You still go and buy. So today, if you look at electronics, consumer durables, which is the easiest, it is, if the price parity is there, and if you are in need, you would go and buy from your next door, right? So I don't think it will die, because humans like the whole excitement of going, spending some time, touch and feel and all. But is the value shifting? Of course, the value is shifting. And value will progressively shift to digital.
I think Indiranagar stores actually stock for 25 to 35 is because there are a lot of other catchment population which keeps, because Kormangla, there are a lot of people from Kormangla coming in buying, and a lot of people from
I'm not denying that. It's a high
street. Though residents would be from 35 to 45 because it's a high-end locality.
Absolutely.
And but I think they stock it because
I agree with you. When I said, I don't mean that everything has to be, but if you walk into any of the stores there, if 40 plus, you may not get some of your sizes or fits.
True. Okay.
That's the reality, right? Now where does he go? You're pushing him to go online, right? Right. And youngsters has already gone online. They are doing window shopping, right?
True. Yeah.
So that's so I'm not. It's not an either or.
I think that's what's interesting is also, Praveen and Shiva, is that we all know that Amazon launched Amazon Go stores in the US, right? But about 3 hours back, Wall Street Journal reports that Amazon is now planning to launch large departmental stores in the US. This is 3 hours back. So the fact is that I think omni-channel is the way to go, and I think even an online player of the size and scale of Amazon recognizes that. So they've been experimenting with retail in various forms. And now the latest is about opening large retail outlets, in America, which are like hypermarkets. That's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens. So I guess, it's impossible to say what's going to happen because I think consumers always surprise you. Just when you think they're going to pivot in one direction completely, they find a balance between two. And that's how businesses need to then shift their priorities.
Absolutely. I think retailers can build strategies which combine strengths of the digital and
Yeah.
draw consumers and even build loyalties. So that's a big strength they have.
So it's also a great time for you to equip yourself, because the fundamentals are right. If you have equipped yourself with the fundamentals, these shifts might happen. The tech shifts will happen, but you will be much more prepared to take it to shift yourself also from a career perspective or a thought process perspective. Right. And that's the reason some of these kind of programs which is being done, Andy and his team have put together along with Micah helps. The perspective changes. For example, now that we are discussing this, my sole objective of going to Harvard was to understand how a regular offline teams think and where am I going wrong. I am a firm believer of digital, right? But this particular one-sided view creates conflict in a large organization, because majority of people think, how can you tell that I'm going to be depleting asset, right? So when you go through these kind of courses, where experienced people come and talk, you realize, how do I marry, or how do I ensure that I have within my organization least amount of conflict or least amount of resistance, right? If you would have asked me 6 years ago, I would have said retail is going to be dead, because I'm so obsessed with digital, right? I still am, right? But then these kind of courses give you a perspective that how things would slowly shift, how things can also be married, because consumer is not 0-1, human beings are not 0-1, they lie somewhere in between, right? Our behavior lies somewhere in between.
There is one question Suela asks, for a new startup brand with very minimal budget, what should be the split focus between direct to consumer and retail?
I would say retail should be hyper local, where you are, where you can control. And D2C, the online should be global, or should be national or global, depending on the product category. Right. So, I mean, I have, and that's we took that route. So me and my wife, I took a break after my Harvard, coming back to India, and then I took a break. We tried to build a honey brand called Dew, which we still are pursuing it. My wife pursues it, and we did the same mistake. We went retail across the country. It is a niche brand, honey brand called Dew, which the honey is from Indian native bee species called Epicerana indica, which is not how honey is marketed in India. But we realized that going that route was not the right thing. If you have limited budget, go your physical retail, keep it hyper local. You can control, you can learn, and then scale the retail. Digital, you go global, you go national or global, whichever is the market. That's my view. There is no right or wrong answer here, right? That's out of my experience, out of our experience. And I don't have much details on the category and the product here. Soila, did I pronounce it right? Soila, right?
Yeah, you did. Yes.
Right. So I don't. So depending on the category, it could be very different. But we realize that for us, we should have focused on one geography, penetrated deep there with all the gourmet stores, and then looked at different cities. See, retail is a physical. So at every incremental penetration, what is required from a geography perspective comes at a cost. Digital, that is why digital is valued more. Digital, the incremental cost remains the same. Your shipping cost doesn't vary so depending on the pin code from where you get order. There is a in-city order, there is within the state or within the zone, and then it is national, right? So that's how I would answer.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the group, guys? I know it's late, but any other questions? I think we can take one more before we call it a night. Anybody at all?
Andy Maker here.
Yes, please.
I don't have a question, but yes, after listening to all this, or the views from Shiva sir, I realized this thing that yes, even in marketing, like when I'm specializing into 360-degree marketing, but when I realized this thing that lately the value shift in digital has been, the rest of them are not eradicating, like outdoor or television or radio, they're not eradicating. But then yes, the shift is very much prominent, which is being visible. Like before, when my spend used to be like 7.5% on digital for a yearly budget. Now it has shifted to 10.5%. So there has been in last 1 year, there has been a 3% increase, where in fact the planning is now to increase it more 5% to reach it to 15% and reduce it to outdoor or to television. So specifically the outdoors and print media is seeing an extreme loss in the revenue because of the pandemic and all these things. But then yes, as sir was mentioning, there's a lot of shift that is coming up in the values for digital, and it is gonna go up and up and up. Am I right, sir?
Yeah. So even in digital, there's a huge shift happening. I'm sure video content is emerging. Social media influencers are emerging in a big manner, right? So today, probably a lot of upcoming digital brands don't use any brand ambassador. They go with micro influencers, macro influencers. You see, some of these shifts come with our understanding of how this medium operates. So equipping ourselves with that knowledge of, there is going to be shift, and the shift could be 6 months, every 6 months or every 12 months, but the shifts keep happening. So equipping yourself becomes very, very important in this space, because we are chasing a moving target, and it's very, very dynamic. See, outdoor, what has been the shift so far in last 20 years? Except for brands specifically innovating in how their outdoor looks, there is nothing which has changed, right? But in last 5 years, in the digital space, there has been so much of changes which is happening, right? Today, I talk to all the new age digital marketing guys, my team and all. They say, "Oh, micro influencers, we have identified in West Bengal, and we are going to use 15 of them." Right.
The fun part is that the expertise is shifting every day, like each decade. Initially, when we joined and we started taking on our career, media samajhna hi bari tha. There are so different kind of media. Now in each media, specifically digital, there's so many layers and layers and layers. The competition within is so difficult. How much expertise you need to understand all these things. That's the reason like these kind of courses do help us now.
Yeah.
The reality is that the pace of change is only going to accelerate. It's not going to slow down. And the truth is that in every single area, whether it's technology, processes, frameworks, automation, etc., we're going to see a lot of disruption happening increasingly. I think really the truth is that for professionals working in any domain, and in data, and enough of studies have proven it, that continuous upskilling is to become a way of life. It's no longer going to be enough to say, I did one certification course and that's it, I'm good. The truth is that within every domain also there's so much of super specialization happening. Like you take marketing, for example, growth hack, testing, things like influencer marketing is becoming so evolved, becoming so complex that it's impossible for you to keep pace with it by learning on the job, which is what Shiva did. Today, I think that luxury of time is not available to people. If you have to move, you have to upskill and move forward. That's the only way forward. Great, thank you so much.
Yeah, it becomes. See, it's like you have a fishing rod. You don't have a fish. So these kind of courses enable you to get the fishing rod, so that they equip you with that. So wherever you go, it will help you to grow, right? And now that Andy,
Yes,
we
I
done?
think so. I think it's 8:30, so I think it's quite late. So thank you, everyone, and thank
Yeah,
you.
I just want to make this statement before we leave. Never say no to a digital opportunity. Whether it is as a business or whether it is a career or whether it is even within your team, if within your organization says this digital piece, can you manage? Please jump. Please be prepared to take that, because that is what is going to come your way. And that is what is going to be biggest value creator. Sorry, Andy, I interrupted you.
No, absolutely, sir. Thank you so much. I think it's been fantastic to hear of your journey and what you continue to do in really exciting areas like gaming. I think it's amazing. I think there's so much to learn from your journey. And I think this conversation on DX was simple, yet it was really, really engaging. I'm sure we've all learned a lot as participants. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks a lot for having me here, and it was a pleasure interacting with you guys.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, it was worth your time.
Thank you, everybody on the call. Take care, stay safe, and have a wonderful evening.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.